This is Duncan Lievi, your host of Lievi on Wrestling, and this is the Hell in a Cell 2020 results and review. I have to be very quiet because it is a little past 3 a.m. here, and it would be unfair to my neighbors and very justifiable for them to come over and start a Hell in a Cell event right here if I talk loudly. That said, let's go over the card. 2 matches were impromptu, which were thrown in together. One was in the pre-show. R-Truth defeated Drew Gulak in just a victory for R-Truth. He is still your 24/7 champion. Insignificant. Then the other match that was put together was Bobby Lashley defending his U.S. title against Slapjack. Slapjack. Still can't get over the fact that that's the name of a wrestler, but if they make it work, they make it work. But the indications for that are not promising. This match was at least very beneficial for Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Business. So I'll look at the positives instead. Bobby Lashley's Hurt Lock is the most protected submission maneuver in the company right now. I think alongside Roman Reigns' guillotine, which is good. So Lashley makes Slapjack tap out, and immediately after, Retribution swarm the ring and attack Lashley. Lashley fights them off. This is even before the Hurt Business has the opportunity to even the numbers, because even before that, Lashley has fought off T-Bar and Reckoning, is that her name? And Mustafa Ali is down on the ring, and the Hurt Business convenes in the ring and looks down at Mustafa Ali, essentially mocking him. Like, where are you going? Because Mustafa Ali leaves the ring right after. So just made the Retribution faction look even worse than it has been booked so far. It was essentially killed on Monday anyway when Bray Wyatt single-handedly defeated everybody other than Ali. So it's just, I don't know. How can you salvage this faction? I'd love to be proven wrong, but we'll have to see. Now, on to the matches that were announced. Starting with Jeff Hardy versus Elias. I made a few notes for this match that had nothing to do with the actual match. Elias is now in danger of losing all the good heat that he had developed as a heel, and he is on the edge. He's on the precipice of getting go-away heat for me because he's annoying. He's a heel, but he's not a justifiable heel. He's a foolish heel. He's a heel who cannot back up his actions. His moveset is not spectacular. Even his mic work seems redundant now. His songs are essentially the same. The formula is formulaic. So, I don't know. I like Elias. I don't want this to happen to him. But, hey, he won the match by DQ. He was going to use the guitar as a weapon in a match where DQ was a factor, disqualification was a factor, and he swung the guitar and missed. Jeff Hardy, in retaliation, did the same thing. He connected instead of missing, and that gave Elias the victory in Elias's return match. Isn't Elias a big-time star? If you look at that reaction that he got in that segment with Kevin Owens, which was, I think, in Seattle, I might be wrong, he has the potential to really control the crowd, and he can get over. It's just that he's booked so horribly. I mean, he's such a delusional person that he's not going after Sheamus, and he's going after Jeff Hardy, knowing fully well that Jeff Hardy did not was not responsible for causing the injury that led to Elias missing a lot of time. Anyway, this is just a sad state of affairs. What's even sadder is that Samoa Joe looked like a complete idiot too, because he had the unenviable task of justifying Elias going after Jeff Hardy. But hey, my prediction was correct. Hey, I'm happy. So, Elias won. Then we move on to Otis versus The Miz in a match where the Money in the Bank contract was on the line. Given the situation that the WWE had created, this was the only logical finish, and I got this prediction right too. Miz walked out, the new holder of the Money in the Bank briefcase. But how it happened is somewhat interesting. I was hoping that Otis would be traded to Raw. so that heavy machinery can be reunited and bolster Raw's tag team division, which is still heavily lacking, no matter what the WWE might have you believing. But instead, Tucker cost Otis the briefcase by hitting Otis with the briefcase on purpose while the referee was not looking. And Miz took advantage of it, covered for the pin, 1, 2, 3, and he walked out with the MITB contract. I'm happy because Otis is a completely non-serious character, and as I mentioned in the preview for this video, for Hell in a Cell video, it's that those comedic characters never fare well in these concepts because no one's going to take him seriously, even if they do cash in. Miz, I'm not going to take very seriously either, but at least he's much better of a talker, much better in the ring, for me at least. In the ring, much higher pedigree of superstar, and I'm fine with him having the Money in the Bank briefcase. He can pull an Edge and actually cash in successfully twice in his career, which is where this seems to be going. So we'll see. We'll see how correct or incorrect I turn out to be. But I'm happy with this result. It's the best that they could do, and it's the only reason why there was dispute around Otis's Money in the Bank claim. Now, to the 3 Hell in a Cell matches. Oh, this is going to be good. We started the night with Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, but I believe, actually, yeah, I'll start with that one. Of the 3 Hell in a Cell matches, it started the match. It started the evening. It started the pay-per-view, which was interesting because I predicted, just like common trends and recent trends, the Universal Championship match would end the night, not begin the night. So that gave me a hint of what was to come, which I will follow up on later. But this match itself, something that I've noticed, and this is an aside, is that Roman Reigns and even these top-tier superstars, they need more moves. For example, when when you have a match featuring The Undertaker, he's got snake eyes. He's got that dropkick that he delivers from the apron with the opponent's head hanging off the apron. He's got he's got old school. He's got the DDT. He's got the power slam. Until WrestleMania 27, he also had the suicide dive off the top rope onto the opponent outside the ring. Undertaker had such a vast variety of moves that the repetition was not entirely necessary. But with Reigns, you have the spear, and he used the spear thrice in this match. I get that the match was very high stakes and it's Hell in a Cell and you have to pull out all the stops, but there's a tendency to just spam finishers in this company, and I despise it with all my heart. I cannot express just how much the hatred runs when finishers are spammed, because that is an oxymoron. A finisher that does not get the job done. What? And it's so common that we're supposed to accept it, to the extent that people would say, no, it's very nice that they're showing how resilient the opponent is who receives the move. No, it's killing the meaning of a finisher. Anyway, as for the match itself, the character work that Roman Reigns is doing is exemplary. He finally gets something that he can sink his teeth into, which is good enough because he has new teeth. But Jey Uso sold well. But this is where my slight qualms with this match, as I predicted in the beginning as well. Just Jey Uso has been shown as a person who just can't beat Roman Reigns, and he's not even in the same league as Roman Reigns, so he won't say no. And the only reason he said no was when Jimmy Uso came to protect Jey first, so he ran out and tried to reason with Reigns and tried to say to Reigns that, hey, Roman, whatever you're going through, we can work through it as a family. We're here for you. You don't need to bash Jey, and a nearly unconscious Jey, in the head with steel chairs, with the steel steps to prove your point. And Reigns started crying. It did not seem like bad crying. It was, it was good tears. It seemed legitimate, as if he was repenting something internally, feeling what he was going through, his complex, his Messiah complex. Well, not Messiah, his tribal chief complex. There you go. And that was all a ruse because Reigns pulled Jey Uso in to the guillotine and applied it. And Jimmy, who recently has recovered from his injury, was suffering, and Jey stirred into consciousness and looked at what was happening. And then he said, "I quit," to protect his brother. And that is all very noble. And that still sends Jey off with some degree of respectability. But there was no offense that Jey was mustering up after a certain point, which I get that was a point, because Reigns' character has to be super over and super strong and very dominant. I'm glad that Roman Reigns did not lose the title yet, because he's going to win it back again soon enough, even if he did. But this was a match so well performed from a character work perspective. The trash talking, one of the funniest moments of the entire pay-per-view, definitely the funniest moment, came when Roman Reigns retorted to the referee. The referee told him that you're going out, and Reigns retorted by saying to the referee that no, you're going out, and he flung the referee over the top rope. It does not sound as funny as it actually was, because Reigns is completely buying into his tribal chief character. I'm waiting for his new theme music, which is apparently going to be one of the finishing touches to his new character, and I'm eager to see how it goes. As for his demeanor, the way he talks, the way he seems he believes the reasoning of his actions, is very, very good. So the match did exactly what we thought it would do, and it positioned Reigns even higher at the head of the table, if you follow the storyline. And the Anoa'i family came out after the match, and they put a garland around Reigns' neck to signify that he had become the tribal chief. So I was just a little concerned, was that the coronation that Reigns was asking from Jey? Because Jey just said, "I quit." He did not acknowledge Reigns as the tribal chief. The tribal chief portion, I think, was confirmed by the fact that the Anoa'i family was crowning Reigns with the garland and hugging him. So I'm not entirely sure, is that going to happen on Friday? We're going to find out, but it's a little unclear. The match itself, plodding at times, but they just need more moves, and Jey Uso's high-flying offense also is insufficient. You see, this could be seen as a microcosm of why a lot of tag team wrestlers, high-flying, amazing, visually appealing move set possessing high-flying wrestlers or tag team wrestlers, do not get singles rushes, because they don't have those effective moves, those brawl moves, those high-impact maneuvers that catch your eye and really believably put the opponent out. Because I did not believe, even if Jey Uso got 5 frog splashes in or 15 super kicks, because that move is dead anyway, I didn't believe that even if that was inflicted on Reigns, that he wouldn't be able to kick out. There was one interesting moment, though, where Reigns was knocked out, and he just didn't say the words. So that was the peak of Jey Uso offense, because he was using some material to wrap around Reigns. That material was the thing that he was using to whip Reigns, and that also had an entertaining exchange between the two. But that was Jey Uso's peak in the match, and Reigns walked out with the title. The match did what it was supposed to. No real complaints here, except for the spamming of the spear. Why do we need to do this? Preserve the finisher. Okay, that's it. Moving on to Bayley versus Sasha Banks. Ladies, what a match. I loved every second of it. And Bayley is, again, doing amazing character work. The trash talking, the fact that I cared about the match was great. I got the prediction right that Sasha won the match, and that is somewhat, in hindsight, retro justification of the nickname that the WWE was going with, the boss of the cell. I mean, I don't know, but she's been in all 3 women's Hell in a Cell matches, and she walks out this time with a SmackDown Women's Championship, ending Bayley's 380-day reign. So I have a qualm with the result, but that has nothing to do with the match itself. The match itself was perfect. One thing aside, Sasha Banks, even when she's very angry and displaying that, performing that, she does the typical women's, flinging both arms and hitting her opponent like that. not a fan of that. But other than that, she's amazing. Very fluid in the ring today as well. There was a Meteora, dual Meteora spot, which was first performed outside the ring against the cell structure, and then again inside the ring. That was amazing. And the trading of finishers. Bayley had set up the ladder resting on 2 chairs and was about to deliver a chair hit from the second rope, but Sasha moved out of the way, which paved the way for the finish of the match, which was Sasha Banks locking in the bank statement using a chair, symbolizing a similar aesthetic as when Sasha forced Bayley to sign the contract for this match. So I have a problem with the result as to who won, which was Sasha, but I predicted that was gonna happen. So, but I hope that this means that they do have another match later down the line, because this feud, these 2 women deserve to have more matches amongst themselves as rivals, because I think the main roster also needs it. But you have Bianca Belair waiting in the wings, so things cannot really go wrong. Cut to 3 months later and it's all gone wrong, but I don't want that to happen, so I hope against hope. Actually, yeah, I hope that does not happen, that they continue the momentum that has been gained. Now, with that said, now we come to the main event. This is the only match that I predicted wrongly, and I've been wrong about the predictions about this match, this feud as a whole, at each stage, which is just great from a predictability. Things shouldn't be predictable that standpoint, but Randy Orton won his 14th World Championship, and I'm not sure how I feel. The best thing is, like I said in the beginning, my main hope, regardless of who won this match, was that Randy Orton should not hit the punt if Drew was going to kick out of it, because there's a video on this channel regarding that. I will not expand too much on that. It's in the same ballpark of my argument, which says that finishers should be finishers, and the punt is not just a finisher, it's the move, which puts people in hospitals. And it's not the kick to the skull, which is annoying. It's just the punt. But anyway, I digress. As for the match itself, a little annoying. There was a very critical point in the match where, well, I'll just dissect the action from the beginning and I'll single out the annoying part of it as well. The match started with typical heel tactics from Orton, who was dressed in a top and trousers in the ring, and he was trying to get an advantage before the bell rang, but McIntyre had scouted him out, and he got the upper hand in the early going. In the early going, Orton mustered up almost 0 offense, which was the emotional flurry that the commentators were referring to. Orton survived that, and then he used his moxie, his experience in the ring. He used a chair to he avoided a claymore, and then used the chair to balance things. Took the action to ringside, where he can continue to use that as a facet. The action was not very fast-paced, but that you can expect with the Orton character as well. It seemed at points that Orton was not motivated in this match. It felt to me that was the case, but I was proven wrong because his mannerisms showed that he was really into it. There was McIntyre has this typical spot where he's rubbing Orton's face against something. In this case, it was the cell structure, and he was saying, "Tell me how it feels, Randy. Tell me how it feels." And he's rubbing Orton's face against the cell structure. And then Orton, when he got the upper hand using some heel tactic or the other, he had a thumb in the eye, typical Orton. And then Orton had the upper hand, and he was dragging McIntyre's face across the Hell in a Cell structure. While doing that, he also wrapped it was his shirt. He took the shirt off, and he wrapped it around McIntyre's eyes, and then he was dragging McIntyre's face again. To me, it looked like, hey, why are you doing that? That negates the effect of the dragging across the cell structure. But then Orton justifies it by saying that, oh, you can't see what's happening, right? Let me tell you what I see. I see a big Scot getting his ass kicked, which I thought was funny, but it just negated the effect of what he was trying to do. But anyway, kayfabe. Interesting things happen when Orton pulls out the pliers and he cuts the lock. He pries open the lock and gets to the outside of the cell, and then he climbs the cell. inviting McIntyre to the top of the cell. The visual itself is not very common, so it looked amazing. Both superstars were there, and Orton had a weapon even there. I think it was a lead pipe that he had on top of the cell. He was trying to gain an advantage, but McIntyre had him scouted. He got the upper hand. Orton was lying on top of the cell, but McIntyre gave him 2 seconds, in which Orton hit him. I think it was low, but they didn't say it was a low blow, but it looked like a low blow. I might have been wrong. Then Orton, still in possession of the pipe. Well, no, I'm sorry. He still had the upper hand, and then he goes to the edge of the cell, starts to climb down, or McIntyre follows suit. And then there was a typical spot where 2 opponents hanging from the cell are hitting each other, and typically what happens is that they both fall down. And I thought that was going to happen, but it dawned on me that Orton's 40 years old, so he might not want to take that bump. And it was right, because a short while later, McIntyre's grip was loosened and he fell through the announce table. And that was the turning point of the match. The announcers saw it too. McIntyre was coughing as if he was experiencing internal bleeding, and that was sold really well by everyone involved. Now the problem with this spot is that the entrance of the cell is on the other side. So you have to get a essentially subdued McIntyre, coughing and everything. You have to get that guy all the way across the side of the cell to the other side, the opposite side, to get him back inside the cell. Now, thankfully, WWE at some point had the genius of showing the McIntyre fall from the side of the cell. That shot, they showed it over and over again. And even that got a little annoying, but what they were trying to cover up was the thing that is the most annoying thing in this entire match. It was just Orton not doing anything. Orton not attacking McIntyre after McIntyre's been prone, after McIntyre's supposedly suffered internal injuries. Orton's not doing anything. He's just standing there admiring his work. That is, in kayfabe, in the world of kayfabe, that is exactly what cost Orton the championship at Clash of Champions, but Orton just keeps on doing it. So I was just thinking to myself, what is going on? Why aren't you taking advantage, Mr. Apex Predator, Mr. Viper? Isn't that your whole thing? He just admires his work, works slow. This is also where I thought, why isn't he more proactive? Why is he being slow, Orton? Anyway, action spills to the inside, and you have the typical angle of the babyface facing insurmountable odds, and Orton is calling for the RKO. McIntyre dodges. He goes for the same cover that got him the victory at SummerSlam. Orton kicks out, and then McIntyre gets the upper hand back, finally, and he's about to hit the Claymore, and he does. He doesn't do the whole setup. He just connects with the Claymore, and Orton has the genius to slide out of the ring, a lifeless carcass, almost. Orton is lying lifeless at the side of the ring, and McIntyre tries to get Orton back in the ring. And it takes a good half a minute or two, and then gets Orton in the ring. But before anything could happen, Orton was prone, and then McIntyre was calling for another Claymore instead of going for the cover. I think that's a good thing, because they didn't show Orton or anybody kicking out of the Claymore, which is a good thing. They preserved the finisher. Absolute plus point for me. McIntyre was calling for another Claymore. He missed. Orton dodges. Orton connects with the RKO. 1, 2, 3. Surprisingly, he didn't kick out of the RKO. I thought that was definitely going to be kicked out of, and then maybe Orton would punt him, which would give him the match if Orton was going to win. I thought McIntyre was going to win because of the entire claim that, your legacy is not going to be established until I have been defeated by you inside Hell in a Cell, until you come out victorious in another challenge, in another title match against me, Mr. McIntyre. So, but anyway, Orton won with the RKO. And you know who kicked out of the RKO? Big Show. That unsanctioned match that they had, Big Show kicked out of the RKO. Yeah, it's strange that McIntyre loses twice by pinfall to Randy Orton, but due to the RKO, and the punt has been ruined, almost completely ruined by HBK and McIntyre. but RKO gets him the win, and McIntyre cannot kick out of the RKO. Of course, you have the background of Orton, of McIntyre falling off the side of the cell. Anyway, those were my qualms with the match. The match's logic and whatever. The action itself was very smartly booked. Orton wins the 14th World Championship, tying him with Triple H for the most of all time. I think they're looking at Cena versus Orton, who's going to win the 17th championship, that angle in the future. I was half expecting Edge to return because the WWE Championship match is closing off the pay-per-view. How often does that happen? Almost never these days. So I thought that was because Edge was going to return, but turns out that was happening because there was a monumental title change taking place, and it did. Orton won the WWE Championship, which means that the Viper has not been defanged. Viper is still the Viper, and the punt is still the most devastating and the most protected move in the history of the WWE. Last 3 months notwithstanding. Still, no one kicked out of it, so hey, still applies. It's a good pay-per-view. It did not plod. It did not have too many matches, which the WWE has been suspect of doing in the recent past. The match of the night was Sasha Banks versus Bayley, to the surprise of probably nobody who knows what they're capable of. And I hope that their rivalry continues. The right people won the matches. Except for I hope that Bayley would come out of Hell in a Cell as the still champion. But that didn't happen. They killed the longest title reign going. But that's fine. I hope they can book it well enough so they don't ruin Bayley, so that they don't ruin Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks actually defends the title until WrestleMania at least, where maybe Belair or somebody else can take it off of her if required. Sasha's a babyface, so I don't see anyone taking it off her anytime soon. As for the WWE Championship, it seemed as if... the Universal Championship first. Reigns is not losing that title anytime soon. Probably he's going to hold on to it beyond WrestleMania, which is good. He needs a very iconic title reign anyway. For the kind of character this is, I don't see him losing it. Barring injury, there's no way the title is leaving him for the foreseeable future. Excuse me. But I don't want too many high-caliber superstars to be fed to Reigns, because this is the portion of Reigns' career where I am fine with him squashing everybody in some form or fashion. He's got a good reason for it, because his character is different, and the angle was booked very well. Even though it was predictable, it was performed immaculately. That said, I hope that Big E is not fed to Roman. I hope that Daniel Bryan is not fed to Roman. I even hope Kevin Owens is not fed to Roman, which leaves a very small list of people who can be. And I think the ideal candidate is Seth Rollins. You can have Seth Rollins going up against Roman Reigns for a series of 3 matches, maybe even 3 matches, if Seth is planning to stick around for that long, especially considering that Seth's baby's on the way and due in sometime in January. No, I'm wrong. Maybe it's later. I think it's in April. I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen. Survivor Series is right around the corner, so maybe Reigns will go up against Orton. That seems to be the match, right? If they're planning to do Raw versus SmackDown. Anyway, as for the WWE Championship, I think this was indicative of the direction that the company is trying to book the championship and the respective superstars as well. Orton versus Edge is probably for the championship, probably going to be for the championship. Before that, I don't think Wyatt and Orton can have a match, because that's going to be intense, and WWE can book anything badly, so I don't put it beyond them, but I don't think it's going to happen right now. I think the next feud for Orton is going to be AJ Styles, but remains to be seen. As for McIntyre, congratulations on being a very good babyface champion, Drew McIntyre. That does not happen in today's WWE. Last time I saw anybody good, believable, and still not an idiot in their babyface role was Daniel Bryan, even though Daniel Bryan did some typical babyface stupid moves, but overall he was a smart champion. So congratulations to Drew McIntyre. I advocated for him to lose here, and he did, even though I predicted him to win. So I got that one prediction wrong, happily. But McIntyre's going to win the title later down the line, and maybe right after WrestleMania, because WrestleMania is when the Edge versus Orton match is being contemplated. So Orton's going to lose the title there. So we'll see how all that pans out. Overall, this was a solid 7 out of 10 pay-per-view, and you could argue 7.5 solely because of the quality of the Bayley and Sasha Banks match. And I was happy to stay up for this, and I was not heavily distracted for this either. That said, until next time, until the next pay-per-view probably, it's me, Duncan Lievi, saying, well, okay, one more thing. The Undertaker, 30 years in the WWE is being celebrated, and the entire event is being booked around the fact that that Undertaker is celebrating his 30 years in the company. That's going to be amazing. That's going to be very wholesome, I hope. And I hope he's not wrestling. I really hope he's not wrestling, even though he said in case of emergency he might. I really hope he's not wrestling. I just hope he's there to have a boring-ass celebration. But that's good. He has deserved that. There was I might have read the advert wrong, but there was an advertisement that there was going to be a Legend Killer and Undertaker segment that was going to follow after Hell in a Cell. I did not stay for that because I wanted to record this so badly, but that could explain why Orton had that Twitter post, also, which was regarding how Undertaker had given him experience, which led him to become successful and all that. So I'm not entirely sure about that. I might have been 2% sleeping or just distracted until Survivor Series. Possibly, I'm not going to do Raw unless something momentous happens. But anyway, until Survivor Series, this is me, Duncan Lievi, wishing you, hopefully, good night, or rather, see you soon.